Cagliostro's dash heavy attack has a couple of buffs to it. It's quantified as an anti-air in the patch notes, but really it just means how it interacts with any airborne opponent, such as when they are launched in the air by your Mehen traps triggering and hitting them. This would be the situation before if your opponent triggered one of your traps, got hit by it, and you were trying to go for a setup with dashing heavy. Not really an opportunity to get reward here. For Dash Heavy's lateral knockback has been reduced on airborne opponents, and the ground bounce height has been increased. Now, if you get the opponent to get trapped by a Mehen and launched into the air, and then connect with the Dash Heavy attack, you're actually able to get some combos. That's just an example of what you can do. Additionally, the light and medium versions of Mehen have had their mid-air hit stun increased by 12 frames, going up from 18 frames to 30 frames. The lateral knockback has also been reduced, and the launch height has also been increased. These things come together to mean a couple of things for Cagliostro. First, let's look at it at a very basic level. You simply have more time to pick up conversions. Before, this is what the hit stun would look like. The opponent attacks in midair. We can check out the situation now. The opponent now lands on the ground, actually. This improves your overall frame advantage and allows Cagliostro to go for other setups. This also has some combo implications, of course, as the patch notes also do mention that when you land multiple of the light or medium versions of Mehen, you now allows for immediate mid-air recovery after the third hit of the trap. The changes to her dash heavy as well as to the light and medium versions of her Mehen give her a lot more flexibility when designing combo routes. Most of the time, if she wanted to side swap, she would have to go for a spare body teleport, but now she can save that cooldown, sacrificing a bit of damage as well as some plus frames, but she's able to use that resource in another place instead. Shout out to Nizumiku for posting a bunch of tech that we're going to be referring to today in today's video. With the extra hit stun, you're also able to stabilize a couple of old combo routes as described here by Nizu, as well as to get a little more corner carry too. Check this out. This is also able to buff her combos off of back throw when she has traps set up in the corner. Let's take a deep dive here. Again, Nizumiku is the GOAT with all this tech that we're getting so far. That's one example, and then here we can look at the second one. These next couple changes would be a little hard to show, so we're just going to have to talk about them and then move on. The heavy version of Mehen has buffs where now if you land multiple of them within a combo, damage scaling is no longer applied to the second one that hits in the combo. This increases Cagliostro's overall damage. The changes to her ground and mid-air ultimate Mehen are namely to the active frames of the trap. They've been increased by 120 frames, so they last 2 seconds longer than they did before. Additionally, the aerial version of Mehen, the distance where the trap is placed has now been increased. This is what it can look like now. This is what it looked like before. A huge difference in terms of where the trap is placed. Having the trap spawn closer to the enemy at this range increases Cagliostro's offensive pressure in mid-screen if she wants to throw this out, as well as no doubt has several implications to her combo routing when she uses this tool. This next change is a little weird to me, but perhaps a Cagliostro player can let us know in the comments section what this is about. The medium version of Calculated has its recovery reduced by 3 frames, so now the frame advantage on block is -1 instead of -4. This means it's safer for Cagliostro to throw out, as well as probably opens up a couple of new links that she can do off of this version of Calculated, especially with all the trap buffs that we've talked about so far. However, there's a second note with this change, and that is, in accordance with this adjustment, the projectile negation frames when collapse is charged have been reduced by 3 frames. The only reason I can think of that's mentioned here is if that wasn't the case, then the collapses projectile negation would have interacted with the medium Calculated and would have made everything not work for Cagliostro here. This is a change I'm not quite comprehending, so if anyone is able to get me clarity on this in the comments below, I'd greatly appreciate it. Ultimate Alexandria has a buff and a nerf. The lateral knockback has been increased on hit. Before, this is what the knockback looked like. The opponent's just a little bit out of the corner from mid-screen. However, as a nerf, it no longer pushes Cagliostro back unblocked when you block it in the corner. This is what it used to look like. As you can see, she could throw this option, be spaced out at -4. This is what Ultimate Alexandria looks like now. The opponent is almost in the corner from full screen, and don't forget, this does wall bounce on and colliding with the corner. So overall, this is a buff to Cagliostro's combo routes. As for the change to the block, she's now -4 and right next to the enemy, which, as you might notice as a theme of this patch, means this. If you're able to block this move in the corner, you get a throw punish on her, which means you can swap sides and then run corner offense on her. Both versions of Ultimate Spare Body, the ground and mid-air versions that is, have nerfs to them. The teleport location for the ground version used to be upwards into mid-air. This made it a tricky reversal to punish sometimes, as you had to basically try your best to time a punish when Cagliostro landed. However, if you were off by just a little bit, she could potentially block instead. So sometimes you would feel rushed to just hit her in midair, and that meant that your punishment on her was less than other characters' ultimate reversals, where you could wait for them to land and have ample time to punish them. Now she teleports backwards instead of upwards. This effectively trivializes punishing her, making it so that you can always get a grounded punish. You can even get some dash heavy starters here as punishes if that's your optimal starter. The knockback on hit, however, has been adjusted to compensate for this change. Probably just so that you're in the position to get similar conversions as you were before. Additionally, the mid-air version no longer has invincibility while falling. Before, you could basically use this not only to change your falling momentum, but also catch an opponent who is trying to anti-air you. But now, if you're able to get your timing right, you'll hit her out of this just fine. This also means if she runs up to you and tries to use an ultimate mid-air spare body on you, you can simply mash on her and escape the situation before she's able to swap sides on you. The timing for this can be tight. She can still hit you for a counter hit and get the exact roll that she wanted. Still, it's nice that you have an answer to the situation instead of just having to hold it. This is a pretty big nerf to Cagliostro, as before she would be able to use this option to get iframes to swap sides on you and then jail into an overhead to keep her offense going. Great. Even if you crouched against this, you were basically stuck holding this pressure. This is what happens when you try to 2H it. Now there's a moment you have before she gets this off where you can contest her. The last couple of Cagliostro changes are to her collapse moves, both the Conjure and the Fire ones. Before, it would take 25 frames to charge and reach level 1. The air version took 30. Additionally, on grounded hit, the opponent stayed grounded. Now, both the ground and the air versions of Conjure take only 20 frames to charge level 1. Additionally, both versions will now launch a grounded foe on hit. The knockback from fire has been adjusted, making it less likely to whiff when fired at mid-air foes. This probably is a change done in mind bearing the fact that now a level 1 charge will launch them. It feels like what Cygames and or Arc System Works are trying to do with Cagliostro with this patch is to move her power away from her ultimate skills and more into her trap mechanic, which is the core aspect of the character. We see that with new combo routes, she's able to have a lot more utility. She's able to make more interesting decisions with how she wants to end in a combo, what setup that she wants to go for, while also being more rewarded on random hits for it as well, making her overall a little more threatening, especially with a couple of changes to how her combos scale with the heavy version of Mehen's new combo scaling. That being said, though, she's definitely a character that is going to feel the ultimate skill nerfs and the system mechanics as combo starter damage, as well as having 3 of her ultimate skills effectively nerfed as well in this patch. While they do basically normalize the situation like other ultimate skills were that had iframes before, in the case of her spare body ground, it is still a nerf to her overall. The Conjure changes are a little interesting with the collapse mechanic as well as the fire one. I guess they might want players to use it a little more, but I don't see it being overall like a fantastic buff or anything like that. I think she's going to stay roughly around the same power level, which could be a bad thing for her, actually, because there are going to be a lot of characters that are moving up a lot more than she was in this patch with the changes that they've received. Ultimately, we're going to have to see. Choculus, if you're watching this, my good friend from Colorado, give us some more insight in the comment section below. And if there's anything else I've missed from anyone else on YouTube, do let us know as well. I appreciate y'all watching.